You're listening to FabulosiTEA, in which we discuss what you bring to the tea party, essentials for the modern heroine.
I'm Caroline from Sparkles and Crumbs.
And I'm Xandra from Fashionably Light.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode 16, Finding Your Own Theology. So why this topic?
Well, we both realized that we sort of believe in very fervently in non-traditional theologies, yours being Greg Peck, where you may have heard Caroline say OMGP sometimes. And a lot of my life has been driven by the principles of Harry Potter, along with other fictional heroes of mine. So we're talking about how to believe in something.
And why it's important and
why it's important.
Hooray. Well, before that though, Xandra, What is your fabulosity today?
I am so excited to be recording this episode finally because my fabulosity is that I redesigned my podcasting studio.
Can we take a picture and put it in the show notes? Because I can see it on Skype and it looks really cool.
I have a whole before and after thing lined up.
Oh, okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes. So hopefully you've seen it by now on my blog. But basically, in case you don't know, I'm podcasting from my closet because that's where the acoustics are best.
It's like a Carrie Bradshaw where like writing today rather than the 2000s or 90s or wherever it was.
Yeah, but I didn't design my closet initially with the intention of spending a lot of time in here. So I spent a few hours at night and I was like, okay, what can I do with the space with what's already lying around? And I'm really happy with it. So I was like hanging out here on the Sunday afternoon. My mom was like, Alexandra, you have to come out of the closet at some point.
And have you got a glitter bow on your microphone?
Yes, Microphone by Crown and Glory. What's your fabulosity?
Mine was I had a really lovely Saturday because lovely Lucy of LucyJLoves.com organised this fabulous blogger day out with a load of London bloggers, some of whom I kind of knew before, a lot of whom I never met before in person. And it was a really great day. We had pizza and we went and tried on a load of gorgeous vintage dresses and went and got cocktails and saw some gorgeous jewellery, buy cred jewellery. And it was just really lovely. It was lovely to meet all these kind of amazing new people with a love of kind of blogging, but also cocktails in common. So
I was looking at your post on that. I was so jealous. And you found some lovely dresses and things too, didn't you?
I did, yes. I'm going to pop a link in the show notes because you guys, I found a flamenco dress. I found a flamenco dress. I'm going to Barcelona at the end of this month and it is perfect. It's insane polka dot flowered gown and I love it.
And I loved the outfit you were wearing to the actual event as well.
Oh, thank you.
It was so Kaz in London.
It's very summery.
Yes.
As soon as the sun comes out, I'm in my sundresses and the tights go away.
Yeah. It's a good time.
It was. So, yeah.
So you know quite a lot about theology, having an academic background in it.
Yes, for those who don't know, I did an undergraduate degree and then a master's of philosophy in theology at Cambridge, England, Massachusetts. And I loved it. I really, really loved the subject. I did kind of a mix of the very traditional theology, but also the part that really interested me was kind of looking at more the psychology and sociology and kind of almost feminist aspects of it. So my master's dissertation, I got to read a lot of Narnia books because I wrote part of it about the White Witch. So that was really fun.
That is fantastic.
I somehow managed to persuade them to let me do that. But yeah, I suppose there's obviously, people are often fascinated that I did theology, considering I'm not religious myself at all in any traditional or conventional sense. But I must have mentioned before how much I love the movie Before Sunset.
Yes.
It's the second in a gorgeous kind of trilogy of movies of Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, and the second one, Before Sunset, is my absolute favourite. And in it, the two main characters talk about what they believe in, kind of as they stroll around Paris in the summer, as you do, as everyone wants to. And
of course,
the girl, Julie Delpy, is kind of saying she doesn't believe in ghosts or heaven and hell or reincarnation or anything like that. But she says, I don't want to be one of those people who don't believe in any kind of magic, you know. And I don't know, I guess that kind of sums up how I feel. You know, I don't think anyone has any particular answers to the huge questions in the universe that they can answer for certain. But I think there are definitely kind of, you can work out what values you hold dear and how you want to try and live and what inspires you to do that. And I mean, that can only be a good thing, as you know about you. But
yeah, I think about that word faith and belief and how it doesn't have to apply to conventional religion, but and the concept of magic as well is, what does the question mean? Do you believe in magic? I think everyone should believe in magic, but what specific idea of magic is, I think, more what people are envisioning, like, oh, do you believe in ghosts? Like, it's one thing to sort of consider the idea and another to believe that a ghost will physically, like, present itself to you.
Can I chuck in a Greg Peck quote?
Of course.
In keeping he just, everything he says is brilliant, basically. But yeah, this wonderful quote, because you said, you know, the word faith. He said, faith is a force, a powerful force. To me, it's been like an anchor to windward, something that's seen me through troubled times and some personal tragedies, and also through the good times and success and the happy times. And I love that idea.
Right. That's all it comes down to, really.
Something that keeps you going and something that's kind of constant in your life and something you keep striving towards that kind of comforts you, but also inspires you and almost gives a bit of meaning to things when they go well as well, perhaps.
Yeah, and can give you direction. Because I like reading my horoscope. And as a kid, I would cut out my horoscope and paste it in a journal and then write about what I thought it meant. And it gets a lot of eye rolls or, oh, do you believe in that? But for me, it helps me guide my already wandering mind.
Sorry to chuck in like yet another quote, but there's this gorgeous one by Jonathan Safran Foer. Absolutely, I just love it. So it's quite a long kind of passage, so I'll kind of cut it down a little bit. But he says, "Make for yourself a world you can believe in. It sounds simple, I know, but it's not. Listen, there are a million worlds you can make for yourself. Some people make their worlds around what they think reality is like. They convince themselves they have nothing to do with their world's creations and continuations. Some make their worlds about knowing it, but you want to make for yourself a world that is deliberately and meticulously personalised. Don't live in accident."
That's so true.
And it's because it's crazy, because I know people who, well, I knew people, for example, when I was at university, who are in the exact same situation as me, studying this beautiful place, learning a subject they loved, you know, with the same great bunch of friends and romance, and their attitude to life and the world is just completely, you know, different to mine. And it's you know, they saw things through a completely different lens. And one of my friends, actually, she's brilliantly grumpy, once said to me, kind of like, for God's sake, it really annoys me, you know, you're always so flipping cheerful, you just expect good things to happen, and then they always do.
Well, I think there's something to be said for that. If you expect good things to happen, then...
But not even that, I mean, like, you know,
will happen.
You know, everything's not cheerful 100% of the time. Of course it's not. And everyone has bad days or kind of goes through hard times. But it's, you know, depending on what perspective you look at your life and your world from, as that quote kind of says, it can completely change how you cope with it as well, I think.
I think blogging has a huge role in that for both of us as well, where I write my blog to help others, but also to remind myself of what I've learned and the principles that I hold dear. Because I'm not going to write about my bad day on my blog. I'm not going to... I might write about it once I've learned something about it, but I'm not just going to rant, be like, oh, I feel awful today, and like just dump out everything that is me at my worst. I will always present me at my best on my blog, and that really helps me to live up to that.
Well, funny enough, I think someone who, like an acquaintance, read my site recently. I'm like, oh yeah, it's great, it's very positive, but you know, perhaps you could sometimes be a bit more neutral. And I was like, well, but you know, I have enough times in my life generally where I feel like a rant or being really negative and miserable and whining, and I don't, you know, I don't think it's a case of being dishonest by not putting that out there. Like as you said, if I'm going through something, I might wait till I'm through it and then try and write something helpful and useful out of it. But
right.
I don't feel like Sparkles and Crumbs or like FabulosiTEA is a place for dwelling on things that are going wrong. I feel like it's a place of trying to find things that can help you through those times rather than just complaining.
Yes. So speaking of an incident that I've gone past, this is a bit of a long story about Harry Potter and my Dumbledore-ism.
So Dumbledore-ism, I love it.
Yes, my Dumbledore-ism. He's my Greg Peck in a different way. So for those of you who don't know, I am quite a huge Harry Potter fan, and the books were very special for me because I read the first book during my first big move that I can remember as a kid, when I was moving from Ohio to Virginia. And I read that book on the way over and didn't know anyone when I moved to my new house, so I just kept rereading it, and I was catching up at that point. So I read the first few books, and it was like my companion for the summer before I met anybody. And then magically, every time my family moved from then on, a new book came out. Yay! So I got to relive that experience of before I met real people, I had these fictional people to check in with. And then when the final book came out, I was at a program called Oxford Prep, which is for high school students who, mostly from North America, who travel to Oxford and take some academic classes. So that's how I got introduced to Oxford. And I was in a literature and the fantastic class. It was the perfect class to be taking, both to be in Oxford and as a Harry Potter fan. And that's when the final book was coming out. So I actually had to call them beforehand and say, am I going to be able to get the book at midnight? Because if not, I'm not coming. But fortunately, a lot of the staff were also as into Harry Potter as I was. So I was very lucky and got to get the book. So in my fantasy literature class, the day before the book came out, we had a special treat where we were talking to my teacher's tutor, Diane Purkis, who's a leading academic in fantasy literature. And somebody made the mistake of mentioning Harry Potter when they were introducing her. And she said, well, actually, we don't like those books very much. And I was trying to subtly take off my Gryffindor scarf and put it behind me.
No, it's a Gryffindor scarf.
She was just she thought it would be a fun exercise to criticize all of the things she didn't like about Harry Potter, and she had qualms with how it sort of caricaturized certain ethnicities, and I can't really remember the other reasons, but I was so traumatized. I was just shaking there thinking, this is my world coming crashing down in front of me by somebody who seems to have more authority than I do. So it was the day before the book came out, and I was like, this is uncomfortable. But then, a week after I read the book and sobbed and everything, I got a note. Somebody came to our class and said, oh, we just got a call in the program office from Blackwell's Bookshop. They said that Alexandra won a trivia contest. So I had won a Harry Potter trivia contest that I just entered a little while ago. So I went to pick it up, and they go, oh, it's you, because I had been there every day because it's an amazing bookshop. So of course I had. And the prize was a magic wand with a phoenix feather.
Oh, I love it. I want one.
So I felt like the wand had chosen me, just like in the books. And it was like Dumbledore saying, it's okay that this thing that you love is over, and it's okay if other people don't believe in it as well, because the universe will find a way of affirming it for you.
If it's something that makes your life, frankly, happier and a bit more magical, and it's not harming anyone, why not?
Right. And it's it's okay to have this thing if it works for you.
Oh yeah, for example, so you get this kind of sense of faith or magic from literature. I just love Gregory Peck's always been my hero, because from when I was really little and saw the first movies, he's always represented this kind of standard to measure up to, and this sense of warmth and wit and goodness, and I just think he's wonderful. He harks back to this golden age of people behaving with kind of integrity and I don't know, I just think he's great. And, you know, I'll say a prayer to Greg Peck to things and be like, oh, come on, Greg Peck, sort this for me. You've always been good to me. So silly little things, like when we flew to Rome the other weekend, you know, I was like, we really need we need a break. Like I was having a stressful time and I was like, you know, it'll be nice to have our holiday. And the weather was scheduled to be storms all weekend. And so I was like, come on, Greg Peck, you wouldn't do this to us. And we landed and we had like gorgeous sunshine the entire first day and a half, and then like a tiny little bit of rain on the Sunday, but it didn't really bother us at all. And then it properly started storming as soon as our cab got to the airport and we were leaving. And I was like, oh, Greg Peck.
Thank you, Greg.
And you know, like people find it hilarious and a bit ridiculous. I'm like, well, he clearly listens to me because no one else is like framed him, so he looks out for me. It makes sense.
That's so funny.
So I do my little pilgrimage whenever I go to Rome. Like I didn't this time, but I usually go to the Mouth of Truth. You know, from Roman Holiday, where he and Audrey put their hands in the movie. But this time I went to go see it's this gorgeous street, Via Margita, behind the Spanish Steps, and it's where they filmed. It's where Gregory Peck's apartment was in Roman Holiday, and it's the most beautiful street in the world. And I kind of came back feeling really restored and kind of having been given a bit of courage to do things I've been meaning to do for a while, and just feeling kind of a bit restored by being close to, you know, where I, you know, feel close to Greg Peck, and kind of this nice kind of
fantastic.
Nice kind of courage boosting influence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even being I'm loving the parallels here between pilgrimage and, for me, the Harry Potter books are sort of like a holy text, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the tie-in to theology there, where one of the things Diane Purkis said was, oh, well, some of those kids in that class treated Harry Potter like a religion. Like that was an insult. But I realized...
That's the highest compliment you can pay any kind of art or story, isn't it? It becomes something that...
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's something to aspire to, I guess. But it's when she phrased it like that I realized that is sort of how I treat it, but...
I don't think that's a bad thing, yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
So tell me more about your Dumbledore-ism. Because I love that name.
Yeah, well, a long time ago, Facebook used to let you list your religion on your profile. I don't know if they do that anymore, but people were like making up things. So I made up Dumbledore-ism and started like a page for it and would put Dumbledore quotes up there. And a lot of people like joined the Dumbledoreist faith. And, you know, in America especially, you get really politically correct about the winter holidays. You can't say Christmas, you have to say Christmahana Kwanzaa or winter celebration or snow party. Season's greetings. Yeah, exactly. Happy holidays. So I would say the Dumbledoreist celebration of winter. It's just as valid. But my favorite quote from Dumbledore is, "It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live."
Oh, he's so wise.
And
he's a great character.
He is. Well, it's similar to the quotation you said earlier about living by accident. And that quote is in reference specifically to the Mirror of Erised, where he's saying, Harry, don't just look at the picture of what you want to happen. Go out and like live your life. So it's quite a literal thing, but I think it applies in many ways, where if you don't go out and live, it's a great thing to dream, and you need to dream, but you need to also live while you're alive.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying about kind of texts being a kind of almost religious for people, because I'm a huge Rilke fan, as anyone who listened to our podcast on kind of artists in residence will remember. And he wrote this incredible series of letters called Letters to a Young Poet. And it's essentially a collection that a young fan sent him some poems. And this fan kept the 12 letters kind of back and forth he had from Rilke. And kind of over the course of these letters, he obviously is replying to this guy's questions. And he just has the most incredibly beautiful and I find so helpful and comforting things to say about how to live your life, how to deal with relationships or work, and finding a purpose. And it's incredible that, you know, something this kind of German 19th century, early 19th century kind of bourgeois poet could and still I'll read them in times like where I'm feeling a bit lost, and they always make me feel better.
It's really fun to just open up a book at random and seeing what
Mm.
page it comes up to and seeing how that speaks to you. Do you do that with that?
No, no, because I know there's my favorite passages that I always go to. Oh, well, I was going to say, I think obviously we all know what a huge Narnia fan I am. So the kind of things you're saying about Dumbledore and how I feel about the ghost of an old Hollywood actor. um, there's that wonderful quote in The Silver Chair where Puddleglum says, "I'm on Aslan's side, even if there isn't any Aslan to lead it. I'm going to live as like a Narnian as I can, even if there isn't any Narnia." I think that sums it up. Like for you, you recognise something so good and wonderful in Hogwarts, and what Dumbledore teaches his students there. It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist in real life. It gives you this ideal to live towards and guide you that you feel makes you a better person.
I think that part of having faith in something is the question of whether it does exist.
Yeah.
Or in what capacity it exists. I guess Greg Peck is more physically tangible than Hogwarts, but it's this idea of the unknown and never quite you have to put your faith into it in order to believe in it. It's not a concrete thing.
Yeah, some people would argue that's faith's a tricky thing to define, isn't it? Because you can have faith in gravity,
Sure.
or you can have faith in God. You can have.
Yeah.
I'd like to. The kind of faith we're talking about, I think, is in things that you can't prove or scientifically explain, or kind of thing.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
So listeners. So listeners, do tell us, what kind of do you believe in most of all? Who or what really inspires you, and what do you have the most faith in? It'll be fascinating to hear, actually, the kind of different mix of answers we get. So do pop to the website. You can leave a comment on the show notes at FabulosiTEA, that's TEA.com, or on Twitter or Facebook. That'd be great.
Yeah, we have some comments from people on our past episode.
Yes, correspondence.
So Valerie replied to our thoughts on the difference between men and women keeping in touch, speaking from her experience, saying that women do seem to be better at keeping up with each other over long distances, just with like quick notes on Facebook, and family members as well, using Facebook and texting and phone calls to keep in touch. So that's sort of the same opinion that we had. It's just good to get other people's input on keeping in touch.
Mm-hmm. If we have any guys listening, do let us know what you think.
Yeah, definitely.
If you think we're doing you a disservice.
And Fabulosity came up in conversation a couple of times over the past week for me, where my mom had another tip to add to our Flying with Flair episode, where I think we said, I think we mentioned you can bring your own tea bags and ask for hot water. But she also suggested if you don't do that, you can ask for the hot water and the tea separately when they're serving it, because sometimes it's overbrewed or the tea has gotten cold. So that's sort of a fail-safe way to get a good cuppa.
Oh, that's such a good idea, because I know some people are really particular about their tea or coffee.
Right.
They like it a certain way.
Yeah.
So that's a really good idea.
She likes it really light, so she just says, well, I like a light cup of tea, so yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mama Burns.
Thank you. And I thought it was funny that Steve was about to take a bath, and he said, well, I feel like taking a bath, but I don't have anything to read. As if the two were required to go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, I never have a bath without a book.
Which is something...
That would be madness.
Well, we didn't even get to talking about bath activities.
No. We always pick topics that we think, we're like, what are we even going to say? And then we realise we could just keep talking forever.
Yeah, we'll have to have baths episode part 2.
2.0.
2.0. Any other business?
Bath time reading. I don't think there is. Everyone do sign up to the newsletter.
Oh, yes.
Just get a little reminder about this tea with some special extras each week, and you can do that on the main website.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be tweeting the Diana Vreeland quote of the week. So check that.
Well, maybe that could be in the newsletter.
Oh, yeah, we can put that in the newsletter.
Yeah, get the newsletter if you want the quote, guys.
Okay. Yeah, so you can go to FabulosiTEA.com/subscribe for that. It's also on the homepage.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I guess all that's left is to announce the next episode, which will be episode 17, Mood-Lifting Loungewear. So do check back with us for that.
And we'll
can't wait to chat to you again.
Bye.
See you next week. Ciao.